The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
This toboggan with veterans in politics. Our first guest is going to be Karen Fraser. She's going to discuss the corruption in Canada's family court. Boy.
Well, it's even going to Canada now, huh?
This thing just jumped over the border.
Right.
And then we're going to have Ryan LeCompte. He's a Marine Corps infantry, and he's got this program for veterans that suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. So he's going to be talking about that as well. How's your vacay?
It was really good, much needed. Went down to San Diego. Always feel better when I come back from San Diego.
No?
Nice weather. I guess they had been going through what they call a hot streak.
Right.
Like it had been like a high at 90 degrees for like a week, which we don't consider hot, but with all that humidity, it could have probably been hot. So
I usually wear a sweater at 90 degrees.
Yeah. Got down there just at the right time, and yeah, a lot of fun. Got to do a lot of cool things. I didn't, I did do the beach thing for a little bit, but I'm more into, I'm kind of a nerd, you know that, Steve. I like learning stuff. So I went to the Air and Space Museum. I went to the Leatherneck Flight Museum, which is in Miramar, which is where Top Gun used to be. But now they're actually in Fallon. And so the Navy basically sold that base to the Marines. Mm-hmm. So now it's a Marine base because the Marines got kicked out of El Toro because I guess Los Angeles was getting too crowded.
Yeah, there's no more El Toro.
Yeah. So that's where everything that happened at El Toro is now in Miramar, up north of San Diego. So it was a fun trip. Got to do a lot of cool things, saw some stuff. Actually got to relax a little bit. Mm-hmm. It was fun. Bought you a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, you're the only one that I bought anything for.
Oh, cool. I think Mantis is gonna get jealous.
Yeah.
Suck up.
Now, I don't need to suck up to Steve. Steve actually, in a lot of ways, Steve needs to suck up to me. But anyway.
Oh, damn. You hear that, John?
But yeah, no, it was actually the Leatherneck Flight Museum was pretty interesting because when we were heading up there, my brother Steve is, Air Force Steve is like the Marines, air power. I don't really get it. And it was actually pretty cool because I ran into this guy up there, and he's like 80 years old.
Right.
He was a Vietnam vet, Korean War vet, and he probably bit off more than he could chew because he said, how do you like our museum? Right. And I talked to him for about 30 minutes, gave him our card, and I think he was getting bored of me asking him all those questions, but he was a nice guy.
Right.
So, yeah, no, it was good. It was fun. Got a little bit of sun, and
I don't see any.
Got to relax a little.
I don't see any sun. No. Mantis?
I didn't get any sun.
Do you have anything?
No, my dad's been in the hospital for the last couple weeks, so I've been busy with that.
Well, prayers for him.
Thank you.
Yeah. See, another Marine.
Oh.
Your dad, yeah.
Did you guys go to the Constitution Day at Veterans Park today?
No.
No?
Oh, I was working.
I did go to the protest yesterday. I didn't see Mantis.
I wasn't angry yesterday.
So what, we got to get you angry for you to get you motivated?
I didn't have anything to protest.
You could have hung out with us. Family court protest. Yeah. There's a lot of people there. I think it was like about 150. If they all didn't go and come. If they just stayed, stayed, then it'd be 150. But people were rotating out.
I can't protest something just because a bunch of other people are doing it.
I'll fill you in. Time I get fill you in, you be angry too. Like I am. But you guys don't have anything else?
You're good at making people angry, so you might.
Apparently I made the Review Journal twice in 4 days. I think that's a record breaking.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. I read that article.
Twice in 4 days I made the Review Journal. Who does that? Who makes a Review Journal twice in 4 days?
Well, the interesting part about...
And I'm not even elected, appointed.
And they made sure that they pointed that out, that you've ran and never been elected, but somehow they...
Well, Abraham Lincoln
about
Abraham Lincoln ran 9 times,
Yep.
and he was the president of these United States. Yep. Nelson Mandela was deemed a terrorist of his country, and he became the president of South Africa.
Are you really comparing yourself
to
Nelson Mandela?
I am not
Abraham
comparing
Lincoln.
myself to Nelson Mandela nor Abraham Lincoln, but I am just pointing out things that was said in that article. It says that I'm a political loser because I ran so many times. Oh. Well, Abraham Lincoln ran 9 times and became president of the United States. It also says that I am over here helping disgruntled litigants that are bad, and these judges are so powerful and great, and maybe we should just drop to our knees when we see them. But Nelson Mandela was deemed a terrorist of South Africa and became president of the same country that imprisoned him for 27 years. So what I'm not trying to say, I'm nowhere near to hold a candle to those 2 men, but what I'm saying is what was pointed out in that article is no different than what I'm doing in my own little simpleton way. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean...
And Jane Ann Morrison, go fuck yourself, by the way. There you go.
Well, and here's
you know what? And I told her, I said, this has nothing to do with me. I made sure I prefaced that had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with these judges that are violating the Constitution, state law, and their own judicial canons. And I named the judges that was doing it, and she made that article all about, why even call me? You already knew what you were gonna write. Was that like a something just to do? Just to say, hey, I called him? Why call me? You already wrote it, just like Duckworth. He already had his pre-written speech made and went to the bench. Why even have me in there? Just do your thing. I'll just stay at home and watch it on video.
Right. Well, and the thing too that I would like to touch on a little bit is, so I've read both articles, and you and I have been friends for a long time, and the thing I always find interesting is when I read these articles or these John Ralston or whoever it is, they always bring up just the craziest stuff, like, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist and all these other things. I'm like, well, but here's the difference between you and conspiracy theorists. Like, most conspiracy theorists, they get all their information secondhand. Mm-hmm. So people, oh, this might have happened, that might have happened. Well, I can tell everybody, all the listeners and everybody, you spend a lot of time investigating this stuff and being involved in this
for
stuff.
free.
Yeah.
I don't care what they say.
Yeah, right. And I can vouch for that one. Actually, it's pretty interesting. I think you pay more to be involved, right? So I think that's the thing that people need to realize is, like, someone that's educated themselves like you have, educated dissent is not a bad thing. People actually should be encouraged to do that. The problem is so few have, because they just feel the whole system is corrupt, and the whole system gets corrupted because of journalists that attack people that are actually educated and are involved in trying to
Right.
do a good thing.
And let me add that these journalists that attack people never ran for elected office.
Right. Oh, yeah,
never put themselves out there.
But they want to. But
They're the first one to talk shit.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I get questions sometimes from people that are like, well, you ran for office and then you've never ran again. And I get a lot of crap about that. And I'm like, well, okay. But at the same time, that's why I still want to stay involved. But I can, maybe I've only ran, well, I ran for assembly and then I ran for chair. So I got to see a little bit of the interstate politics and then the inter-party politics. Done with that altogether. But in general, I mean, like, people that haven't actually taken the time to involve themselves and actually get to understand the stuff just need to shut up. And that's where these reporters frustrate me, is because they think they're holier than thou and they think they have it all figured out. Well, I'll just make a quick sports analogy. Like, okay, so because I played high school football, now I'm watching an NFL game or a college game on TV, and I'm like, oh, you know, when I played that position, I would have never done that. He should have done this and that. Well, I'm not qualified to make that.
Until you walk in their shoes, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think what these reporters need to do is get back to just report the facts. Let the people decide. Stop with your own damn opinions. Like, just report the facts, and then people can decide. If they think you're a jerk, that's fine. You're a jerk. Or if they think you're a great guy, that's fine. But they're not entitled to make that decision for the people that read the magazines check out the news.
You know,
that's just my
well, you
opinion.
know what they say: if you can't kill the message, you kill the messenger.
Right.
But guess what? I'm not going to die that fast, so I'll be around until 2020 and make sure all them damn judges that I named get off the fucking bench. There you go. So keep writing bad shit about me, and I keep doing what I'm doing, and the more bad shit you write about me, the more I'll do. And that's that.
Sounds good. Let's get to the guest. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a commercial break. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, and Mantis Toboggan with Veterans in Politics. We're going to come back with Karen Fraser, and she's going to talk about the unethical behavior of the judges in Canada's family court. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. This is Jim Jonas, host of Veterans in Politics. We are a video and internet radio show, live every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Television. Our mission is to educate, organize, and awaken our veterans and their families to select, support, and intelligently vote for those candidates whom would help create a better world to protect ourselves from our own governments in a culture of corruption, and to be the political voice for those and other groups who do not have one. So listen to us live every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Television. Or, if you miss that opportunity, it's okay. You can listen and watch our archive broadcast by going to www.www.dbtv.com, or simply Google Veterans in Politics and it will link you right over. It will also give you a list of our upcoming shows, so you can do some research and call in to ask questions. The number is 702-685-8380. If you truly want to be informed and make educated voting decisions, Veterans in Politics is the place to go. We are nonpartisan, have no agenda but to help you get the information you need to make an educated voting decision. Remember, the person who doesn't educate themselves and exercise their right to vote is only adding to corruption in government. Don't be that person. Listen every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. to Veterans in Politics. For more information regarding VIPI, visit www.veteransinpolitics.org.
All right, we're back, folks. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, and Mantis Toboggan with Veterans in Politics. We're live with Karen Fraser, and she's going to discuss the unethical behaviors of family court judges, and I believe Child Protective Services is in there as well. Ms. Fraser, how you doing today?
Hi.
Could you give us a bio? Tell us a little bit about you.
Just about myself.
Yes, ma'am.
I am.
What's
a
the temper?
Canadian citizen,
Tell us where you're calling from first.
Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, okay. Okay, now a bio.
I'm a Canadian citizen with 5 children, and I had spent about 8 or 9 years working with the Child Protection Agency here, and have learned that it's all about the money.
You work for them, or you've been working with them?
I've been working with them in various different ways through contacting them to report suspected child abuse. And I used to volunteer at the community center, and we had a worker from the Child Protection Agency come to our regular meetings. They used to hand out pamphlets, and I used to copy them and go around the neighborhood handing them out and speaking with people about them on how they should call the Child Protection Services. Since then, I've learned that that was a mistake, and now I should go around telling people why they should never call.
So why did so you changed your mind on that? What made you change your mind that they shouldn't call Child Protective Services when before you thought they should?
I was meeting with them regularly for 3 years regarding a child who was being abused and neglected, and they didn't do anything to stop the abuse or the neglect. And even when it got worse, they were very hesitant to step in and do anything to correct the situation, and explain to me in full detail that they have these protocols and policies that they have to follow in order to help the children. And so those policies were preventing them from doing certain things to help this child. So the abuse continued and it went on. And then later, when there was another issue and I called them to help, something happened, and then they said they wanted to have an emergency meeting. I couldn't make the meeting because of a road closure from a highway traffic accident. I asked them to rebook the meeting. They said no. They said they had to apprehend 4 of my children. I pointed out all their policies and protocols that they had told me in the past that they have to follow, and how they broke every single one of them to steal my children. And they said, no, they didn't. I only think that because I have a mental health issue. They are right. I am wrong. And every single judge that was involved with my case said that they're allowed to break any rule and regulation and policy that they have.
So a judge actually told you that they could. I'm confused. So the judge actually said that.
Well, they didn't say. The one judge said they felt that the agency acted appropriately. None of the judges questioned whether or not they had a proper warrant to remove the children from the home. It's hard to say whether or not the warrant is mandatory or just something that they can do if they want to. Like, some of the judges want them to get a warrant, and some of the judges don't care.
Ms. Fraser, what are the ages of the children?
Of my children when they were taken?
Yes.
8 weeks, 3 years, 10 years, and 13 years.
8 weeks?
Yes.
Was the child still being breastfed?
I was just switching from breastfeeding to bottle feeding because I was having a lot of issues with breastfeeding. And still, sometimes I feel like if I could have breastfed better, then I wouldn't have needed money for formula, and I wouldn't have been stressed out about how expensive formula was. We wouldn't have got in an argument about money, and they wouldn't have felt that, us arguing in front of the children was such a danger. The thing is that in the past, with this other little girl that was being abused, they said the parents arguing in front of the children was not enough reason to take them.
Are the children from one spouse? From the same spouse?
No.
Huh?
No, they were not.
How many different fathers?
I have 5 children with 4 different fathers, and I think they just look at that fact alone and say, wow, this mom must be crazy.
Are any of them with the fathers now?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Are any of your children with their fathers now?
Oh, the children live with their fathers? Yes, 3 of them do.
And what about
And the thing with that is it's really messed up as well, because they admitted in the court that they understand that I have PTSD, and that part of the reason why it's gotten worse instead of better is because of my 2 past relationships where the father of my children were abusive to me, and that they don't think I should have the children in my care because I need to spend so much time and energy with doctor's appointments and healing therapy to get better. So they're going to take the children and place them full time with the 2 people who they admit abused me. That's their solution to the problem.
Where's the you said 4 children are with the fathers? Is that what you said?
3 of them.
3 are with the fathers. So where's the other 2?
My son, who was 8 weeks, got put into foster care. When we learned about kinship placement.
What is that? What is kinship placement?
Kinship placement is when you have someone fill out paperwork putting forward the request that they have the child in their care.
Is that like
It's
foster
kinship
kid?
guardianship. Like,
Okay.
Yes. Yes, they can eventually get full guardianship or adopt, or they can just stay with the kinship placement. And I thought at first there was only one type, but apparently there's 4 or 5 different types of kinship placement as well.
So Miss
They were
Fraser,
not really clear in explaining that to me.
Miss Fraser,
And
the 2 children that's are in this kinship placement, or are they belonging to the same biological father?
we didn't get approved for the kinship placement.
So where are they?
My son went to foster care, and when we tried to apply for kinship, the worker told us that she didn't have time for that.
So what about the 8-week-old? Where did that one
that's
go?
who she was talking about. And the other child?
Yes, he went to foster care, and then later, when it came out that I was correct, he never needed to be taken. They said it doesn't matter because it's too late now, because he's been in foster care so long, he should stay there because they're willing to adopt.
And the 5th child?
That's him. My oldest daughter
sorry, you said you had
was
3?
not apprehended.
Oh, okay. And how old was she?
Because they were under the impression that she had already moved out and was living with her father. But she was actually on vacation. So when she left for vacation, all of her siblings were here, and when she came back from vacation, all of them were gone, and she didn't know what she missed.
So how old is that one?
She was 15 at the time.
Okay, so the one question I have for you, is that this is a tough question to ask because I'm not like, and I honestly I just don't want you to think that I'm in a position to judge, but at the same time, like, and thank you very much for coming on and being able to talk about this, because this is obviously a tough situation to be in. But
Yes.
so, as far as corruption in the family court, do you think that maybe, I mean, just based on what you're saying, it just seems like it's a very confusing and difficult situation in general. So where exactly did the corruption come in with the family court? Because at the same time, I understand and I sympathize with your position, but like, it just seems like there's a lot of stuff going on, and for one judge to be able to figure all this stuff out would be pretty tough on anybody. So I'm looking to see where you tie the actual corruption in on this. Do you not think that maybe you and your spouses or partners may have been able to make a little better choices and not be put your hands in a judge's decision like this?
Oh, sure, yes. I've had multiple people ask me, well, why did you get involved with the Family and Children's Services in the first place?
Yeah.
And the thing is that was my biggest mistake. I called them and asked them for help. I didn't know at that time that calling them and asking them to help you meant, please take my children.
Right.
What is it that you had asked them for initially?
My ex was abusing me in front of the child, yelling and screaming and scaring the child at the drop-off pickup location, and I asked them to help me arrange supervised drop-off pickup.
But this was somebody who was living in your home?
No, this was my ex, who I had one daughter with.
Okay.
And at the time, my daughter was 3 years old, and I was pregnant with my last baby.
So, Ms. Fraser, what did they tell you to
They told
take
me
your kids?
that
my
ex screaming at me and scaring my child, who was 3, was not a child protection concern, and that I needed to go to family court and stop bothering them. And then exactly 1 year later, they said that, if I had gotten a fight with my new boyfriend when the baby was at home, then I should have assumed that yelling would scare the children and lead to apprehension. And so that's the part that I didn't understand. And that's when I started getting really into the investigating what they're about, and found that they do this all the time. They change the rules. They don't have a set of rules that they keep for everybody. They change the rules depending on whether or not they like the parents or don't like the parents.
Do you have a criminal record?
He had been
No,
arrested for assault. But
you.
Oh, do I? No.
Do you have
my father had been arrested for assault.
Okay, so you don't have a criminal record, right?
That I reported had also been arrested for assault.
Ms. Fraser, you don't have a criminal record, is my question.
No, I don't.
Do you have any? Have you been in a drug or alcohol treatment program?
No, it's
did CPS ever got involved in?
There was never any suggestion of any of that.
Were there any allegations of child abuse or neglect? I'm just trying to figure out why they would take 5 of your children away from you.
4 of them.
4 of them. Where's the 5th one?
The 5th one was on vacation.
15 at the time, and they
with her.
decided not to take her because she was on vacation with her grandparents.
So if she wasn't on vacation, they would have took her too?
They might have, but at 15, she probably would have looked at them and said, whatever, I'm going home now, goodbye, and left.
Right.
Because she wouldn't have let them take her.
So you have no reason why they would take your children, or are you?
Well, the thing is that when I was working with them for 3 years with this other little girl that was being abused, they specifically told me they have to do everything they can to work with the family, removing the children as a last resort. And then with me, I asked them for help. They said no. They wrote me a letter in June stating that they had absolutely no concerns with the children in my care. And then about 6 weeks later, just all of a sudden took all the children. And I said, what happened to those rules and regulations of we have to do everything we can to work with the family, and we take, removing the children as a last resort? And all they said was, well, we tried to do everything we could to work with you. We invited you to this meeting. You didn't show up. And I said, it's not that I didn't want to show up. I couldn't get there because I was an hour and a half drive away.
Right.
And the only road that I knew to go on was closed because there was a huge accident with the transport rollover and
we got that part. We got that part earlier when you mentioned. So what are your plans to do now? What are you going to do moving forward?
Right now, I am slowly going through my list and registering my formal complaint, starting with the Ontario children's lawyer that was appointed, who did absolutely nothing to help my children.
Okay. All right, Ms. Fraser, we're not really familiar with the laws of Canada, but we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you'll be able to reunite with your children soon. Do you see them? Do you have visitations or anything like that?
Nope, because they said that because I have this unnamed mental illness, I shouldn't have any of the children.
An unnamed mental illness? Did they deem you with a mental illness before they took your kids or after?
After.
Anybody will have a mental illness when they take their children. That's called a civil death. But thank you so much, Ms. Fraser, for coming on the program. What kind of advice would you give anybody that's listening to this show right now?
Well, if I could go back in time and tell myself, I would tell myself not to trust them, not to tell other people to trust them, not to call them, tell other people not to call them, and just don't be stupid and naive. They are not there to help the children. They just make up stuff and lie to the judge in order to steal children to make their quota money. And
so they make a quota money, you said, if they take your kids?
Children who are being abused and then take children that were not abused. And they don't care. They have no conscience.
Ms. Fraser, did you say they make money if they take a child away from the parent? Is that
yes, I believe my son was one of their quota babies. There was
it increases their
huge
funding.
thing in the news about a memo leak in March of 2013, and my son was born just after that. And the memo leak was about them stating that, there hasn't been enough children in care, and so they're not going to meet their yearly quota.
Wow.
So their big boss was telling all the main workers, don't close any files. Keep them open. Even if there's no concerns, just keep all the files open.
Well, with you, they hit the jackpot. They got 4. So.
Well, not necessarily, because they gave 3 to my exes.
Oh, okay.
And they don't get money for that. They only get money for the ones that go to foster care.
The 8-week-old
or opted out.
8-week-old child you take from a mother.
And they don't get money for the ones in kinship program either. So when the lady from my family, tried to apply for kinship, they didn't go through with the request. They didn't say yes or no. They just stopped doing the process. And I didn't understand why until after, when I found out that if she qualified and they gave my son to the kinship program person, they wouldn't get their quota money. But if they adopt my son out to the foster parents, then he counts.
Right. Well, Ms. Fraser, we're running out of time. I want to thank you for coming on the program and calling all the way from Ontario, Canada. We really appreciate that. And I hope a lot of Canadians will listen to this and maybe help you in your endeavors and maybe change some laws over there, okay?
Yes, because it's not just in the States or Canada, it's everywhere.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Fraser. Folks, that's Karen Fraser, and she was talking about the corrupt behavior of Child Protective Services in Canada. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas and Mantis Toboggan, Veterans in Politics. But don't go away. We're going to have Ryan LeCompte. Hope I pronounced that correctly.
Definitely way off.
Pronounce it for me.
That's okay. He's not here, so he's not.
Pronounce it for me.
Pronounce
Yeah.
LeCompte.
But they got an E at the end.
It's French.
It's French.
Oh. How'd you know that?
There is no E in the French alphabet.
Oh, really? All right, well, Marine Infantry, we'll be right back, folks.
Good afternoon. This is Jim Jonas, host of Veterans in Politics. We are a video and internet radio show, live every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on worldwide digital broadcasting television. Our mission is to educate, organize, and awaken our veterans and their families to select, support, and intelligently vote for those candidates whom would help create a better world to protect ourselves from our own governments in a culture of corruption, and to be the political voice for those and other groups who do not have one. So listen to us live every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. on worldwide digital broadcasting television. Or, if you miss that opportunity, it's okay. You can listen and watch our archive broadcast by going to www.www.dbtv.com, or simply Google Veterans in Politics and it will link you right over. It will also give you a list of our upcoming shows, so you can do some research and call in to ask questions. The number is 702-685-8380. If you truly want to be informed and make educated voting decisions, Veterans in Politics is the place to go. We are nonpartisan, have no agenda but to help you get the information you need to make an educated voting decision. Remember, the person who doesn't educate themselves and exercise their right to vote is only adding to corruption in government. Don't be that person. Listen every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. to Veterans in Politics. For more information regarding VIPI, visit www.veteransinpolitics.org.
Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, and Mantis Toboggan, Veterans in Politics. We have Ryan LeCompte, infantry veteran. He's got a program to help veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Hey, Devil Dog. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Colorado, just across the state line.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got involved with what's the name of your organization?
It's called entheogenic therapy.
You're gonna have to explain that. Entheogenic, you said?
Yes, sir. So the root word is entheo, which is divine, and genic is within. So entheogenic is divine within.
Is it French as well as your last name? I heard your last name is French. I just want to see if that was a French word.
It is, man. I heard y'all. I chimed in on the app. Old girl got it right, man. It's LeCompte, but I was born and raised in the Bayou in Louisiana. We're down in dirty Cajuns. It's LeCompte.
All right. I didn't even know she knew French words.
She's on target.
I know. Okay, so tell us about you and tell us about your business.
Well, we're a nonprofit. We're in the process of filing for a 501c3. It's a long process with the IRS. I didn't know how long, but it's definitely a process. We're specializing in treating chronic treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder and service-connected PTSD in veterans.
Well, what about your bio, Ryan?
My bio, I hold a master's in transpersonal counseling psychology.
Okay.
And,
you hold a master's in psychology, you said?
Yes, sir. Okay. And counseling. I'm a psychotherapist. I practice here in Colorado.
Okay.
Okay, we need you in studio right away. Maybe you can figure Steve out.
Yeah. Hey, he might be a good candidate for our program, man. Hey, man. We actually treat all the way going back to Vietnam vets. We got vets that have been roaming the VA's halls since Vietnam, man, and it seems to be working. We've got over 200 vets that have come through our program, and every single one of them has come back after our assessments with lower scores and severity scales for PTSD. And it seems to be working. I was actually listening to that woman that was on y'all's show a couple minutes ago, and it seems like the same story every time for these vets, similar to civilian life, for what she's experienced with abuse in the home, with spouses and the children that are exposed to that kind of abuse. These vets, the ones that have trouble with the VA treatment, it's underlying the combat experiences. When these vets come home from these experiences, really what's keeping them from having positive experiences at the VA with PTSD treatment is the fact that they've had earlier childhood abuse and traumas, that they're having issues being able to thrive with the VA treatments that I'm finding. So if that lady's listening, please get her in contact with me. The starting point, I could definitely refer her out to.
She's in Canada.
That we use. Yeah, absolutely. We're international. I can refer her out to some of the sites that we use internationally.
Okay.
So if she's interested, if she wants to try out what we have to offer, I can refer her. She just can't come through our sponsorship program because we're strictly work with vets.
Okay. So how does your program work,
Ryan? I didn't explain any of that, but
how does this program work?
So basically what I do is we work based on attraction, not promotion. So vets that seek out our program, we have over 3,000 vets in our program right now, nationwide. We're all online. We have a Facebook page, and so vets will come to our website, submit an interest ticket, say, hey, look, I've been trying the VA therapy for at least 6 months to no avail, and they'll give us a background on what they've tried. They go through the screening process, and that's part of our screening process. They had to give us a background on what meds they've tried. Usually it's based on depression, anxiety, and sleep disorders is what comes along with PTSD. Those are the three main areas that are affected by PTSD. So they're usually on some form of an SSRI. They're usually on some form of an anti-anxiety medication and some type of barbiturate for sleep. So we get a background on those meds. We also evaluate what therapies they've been using. And then we go into this background in terms of PTSD service connection. We make sure they have that diagnosis. And then we talk about what they want out of this treatment program that we have to offer. And then we just sort of, do a dialogue from there. We say, what would you like? Do you want to have a better relationship with your son, your daughter? Do you want to get off these meds? What don't you like about these meds? What don't you like about the therapies? What worked for you? What didn't? It's very client-centered and oriented. Once we get past that first phase of screening, the next phase is evaluating their level of income, where they're at financially, and if they can afford the trip to actually go down to a church that we use that can actually use ayahuasca legally and using the Religious Freedoms Act. Then we send them down to the church that we use here stateside to participate in an ayahuasca ceremony. Once they go through that experience, it's a 3-day experience, 3 ceremonies of ayahuasca. They come back to their home state. They go back into their family life, wherever they live, and they go through about a year-long integration program with us where we provide mindfulness-based meditation practices with them. We do one-on-one. I provide one-on-one individual counseling over the phone or by Skype with them. And then we
I'm sorry,
assign them
did
a
you
peer
say that there's
mentor.
somewhere in the States that you do the ayahuasca?
Yeah, so it's actually it's a nonprofit church called Soul Quest Church of Mother Earth. It's in Florida, in Orlando, and it was founded by a guy named Chris Young who applied to the DEA for the exemption status for under religious freedoms to use ayahuasca as a sacrament as part of their church under a Native American branch.
Wow, I didn't know that existed.
So what would you? So this is Jim Jonas. Thank you very much for coming on the show. What would you say for? And I apologize, I had to step out for a minute. So I came in kind of in the middle of your interview here, and just based on the little bit that I've heard so far, and I'm sure you've heard this before. What would you say to somebody? Like, my perception, honestly, is like it. Yeah, it sounds like you really are trying to do good, but it almost kind of sounds kind of cultish to me. Have you ever gotten that feedback before? Like, it almost seems like you're trying to recruit somebody into some new type of church.
Absolutely, and so I've been doing this for about 4 years now. This program for me, VET, has started. I started this back in 2014, and it really started out of a place of wanting to address the suicide rate with veterans. This study came out in 2012 by the Veterans Administration. 20 died to every veteran community back to the Vietnam vets. And I personally experienced the loss of fellow infantrymen while I was on active duty in 2008. Sergeant Leon, who we served together in the infantry as 0311s. I found he hanged himself in his barracks room, and that was the first stroke of PTSD firsthand, but I just didn't have a name for it at the time. And that's sort of what we did in the Marine Corps. We just all drank this stuff away. And sure enough, after I got out in 2011, I myself went through the VA's program. I was on all these meds, and I had kids of my own at the time. I became a zombie. I went through the program. I was so sedated, and my wife at the time just sort of said, "Dude, you're not who you were. I mean, you were bad, but you're not there anymore. I'd much rather you be the bad, sort of shut down guy than you are this walking meat with eyes." And so that sort of woke me up. So I identified the problem within the VA, pursuing a bachelor's degree, but I just didn't have a solution. So I did this underground psychedelic therapy session with a friend while I was pursuing this bachelor's degree, and it was a profound experience for me. It was a spiritual experience. But from that, I started VET, and I had this vision to bring vets down to Peru to study with ayahuasca. And from that experience, I kept bringing vets down.
That drug is illegal here, right, in the States?
It is, but under the Religious Freedoms Act, it is through a Supreme Court ruling.
Because Cain was mentioned. You know Cain, right? Cain Marzola?
Yep.
He was mentioning that to me. He said that he went through that experience, and he wanted me to go down to Peru and do that with him again. You think that's something that's advisable?
Here's where I wanted to get to the cultish side. I think that's a really good point. I've been to over 30 retreat centers across 5 continents trying to figure this thing out and blazing the path for other vets, because I know it can get cultish. I've sat with a church in Ashland, Oregon, who has this DEA exemption through the Supreme Court ruling, who can practice with it legally here in the States. And they required me to wear all white. I had to sing songs for 8 hours with this group, and it felt like I was in a cult. I had to stare in the center of this room, and people were singing some weird stuff in Portuguese. It didn't feel right. It was definitely strange. And by the end of it, I told the leader of that group, I have to gracefully bow out. This thing was not therapeutically oriented to the needs of my vets. This is your deal. This is like religiously dogmatic. So what you got, it works for you, but in America, we have the freedom from religion as well as the freedom, religious freedom as well. So I wanted to gracefully bow out of that. And I've been doing that for the past 3 years. I've sort of been scouting out sites around the world, and I found Soul Quest Church of Mother Earth and this guy, Chris Young, who very much follows along the tradition of this Shipibo tradition in Peru. And the Shipibo tradition's been around thousands of years in Peru. And I don't want to hype this thing up too much, but the general idea in that religious setting is that there's one shaman in a circle in a hut, pretty much in the Amazon, and he sits in the front of a room and shakes a rattle and administers this ayahuasca, and everyone in their private space goes through this experience, and he acts as sort of this steward to make sure everybody's in a healthy enough level of an ego state, if that makes sense. Like, they have it together, their shit's together, and he makes sure everybody's shit's together throughout the night.
How safe is this thing? I mean, would somebody get homicidal or suicidal or just run down the street with no clothes on? I mean, what's going on?
There is risk to that, but that's why, I went to school for 8 years and got this psychology degree, because that's part of my screening process. Is I evaluate for dissociative disorders. I evaluate to make sure that no one's at risk going through this experience. Make sure that there's a term in my field called ego strength before going into something like this, where which mimics something called exposure therapy. And in exposure therapy can be really effective for PTSD treatment, where the idea is to break down the ego enough to be able to build it back up. It's a bio reset. So
right. We have. I don't mean to interrupt, but we're running tight on time. So one thing that I would like to ask you just real quick. Thank you for coming on.
Send it.
And you're talking a lot about treatment for PTSD, and thank you for doing that, because I don't think a lot of people. There's still a lot of science out there that has not figured this out. But so you're looking at the treatment, the aftermath. I would like just in 30 seconds, if you could, how do we avoid it? I mean, what's your take on when we should actually send troops into combat? Because if
30 seconds,
if no one went to combat, we wouldn't have this PTSD or even the training in the military.
I look at Israel and I see how their culture is set up to create a container for traumatic events. And what I mean by that is in America, we live pretty well protected. We live in a bubble, and our culture is not set up for returning warriors. And so that's one avenue is to not live in such a bubble in America, where there's so much privilege here, and we have warriors returning home to a culture that's not very well receiving of them. And the second part to that question is when to use force. And I think that question can be answered in terms of using force consciously and as a protective measure. I think that in situations of terrorism and crisis, a warrior doesn't want to use force, but if necessary and in protective measures, it's necessary. Someone's going to come to my door, I'm coming out blasting.
Ryan, how could we get a hold of you? Do you have a website, phone number, stuff of that nature?
Absolutely. If you want to reach out, my number is 256-658-1562, and my website is www.vetandtheogenic.org. We also have a Facebook page, www.facebook.com/vetandtheogenic.
Well, Ryan, I'd like to thank you for coming on the program and sharing that with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
And hopefully,
thank you guys for having me on.
Hopefully,
Thanks,
more folks.
Marine.
Semper Fi. Hopefully, more folks get a hold of you and try to deal with their post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not too keen on that Peru thing, though. I'm telling you right now. But
yeah, it's kind of weird, man. It's not for everybody, but it's available if you need it. If you're at your lowest.
Yeah, because that's probably gonna bring out a lot of darkness that I've been burying. But
there's more.
Oh shit, man, we've been there.
You see what I got to deal with, Ryan? Well, Ryan, thank you so much, folks. That's Ryan LeCompte. It's French. And he's a Marine veteran, and he's going to help veterans with their post-traumatic stress disorder. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas, and Mantis Toboggan Veterans in Politics. Until next week.